In June 2022, a 19-year-old woman was shot inside her own apartment in Gilbert. Somehow, she managed to call 911.
I was shot by someone I don't know.
But the deeper you look into this case, the harder that statement becomes to believe. Because Rachel Hansen's life, in the days leading up to her death, was anything but normal. She had direction. She had goals. And to everyone around her, she had a future that was only just beginning. Rachel had been adopted by a foster couple and raised on a ranch in Gilbert. From a young age, she loved horses. It wasn't just a hobby, it was her entire life. She was driven, focused, and ahead of her time. Rachel graduated high school at just 16 years old, and by 19, she was already working toward starting her own horse training business. But things started to change. Before her death, Rachel had been living and working on a horse ranch in Queen Creek. At some point, she was fired. What exactly happened isn't fully clear, but what is known is that it didn't end cleanly. There was a dispute. According to reports, the ranch refused to return Rachel's horse unless she paid for damages to a trailer. Whether that damage was accidental or disputed, it created tension. And for Rachel, this wasn't just about money. That horse mattered to her. Eventually, she had to leave. With nowhere else to go, Rachel moved back into an apartment she had been subleasing near the Santan village. But the moment she got there, something felt wrong. The apartment reeked of marijuana. Not just a faint smell, something strong enough to immediately stand out. It didn't take long to realize why. The previous tenants had allegedly been dealing drugs out of the unit, and there had already been multiple complaints tied to that apartment. Rachel had unknowingly stepped into an environment that may not have been as safe as it seemed. And then, the night before her murder, something happened that makes this case even more unsettling. Someone entered the apartment. Rachel was inside. She was startled awake, but whoever had come in didn't attack her. They didn't take anything. They didn't leave any obvious sign of forced entry. Instead, they left behind something strange. A jar of pickles, sitting on the counter. It sounds almost absurd, but it's real. And it raises a serious question. Why would someone break into an apartment and leave something behind? Because whatever the reason was, it meant one thing for certain. Someone had already been inside Rachel's home. Less than 24 hours later, it happened again. The following day, Rachel spent time with her fiancé. Everything appeared normal. There were no signs that anything was about to go wrong. He left her apartment around midnight, and then at approximately 2 a.m., someone came back. This time, they weren't just there to enter. They came with a gun. Rachel was asleep when she was shot. The bullet entered through her lower left side and exited through her right shoulder. It was a devastating injury, but somehow she was still conscious, still able to reach her phone, still able to call for help.
When she spoke to dispatchers, she said, "I was shot by someone I don't know."
Those words would become one of the most haunting parts of this entire case. Police and paramedics rushed to the scene. Rachel was transported to a hospital in Chandler, where doctors attempted emergency surgery. But despite their efforts, she didn't survive. Rachel Hansen died that night. As investigators began looking into her life, more details started to surface. Details that made the case feel less random and more targeted. It turned out that Rachel had reported being threatened in the months before her death, and the person she named wasn't a stranger. It was her fiancé's father. According to records, he had allegedly threatened to kill her. That alone should have raised serious concerns. And over time, he has been identified as a potential suspect in the case. But even with that information, no one has been arrested. No charges have been filed. And years later, the case remains unsolved. Which brings everything back to that one statement.
I was shot by someone I don't know.
Was Rachel mistaken in that moment? Was it too dark to see clearly? Or was the person who pulled the trigger truly someone she had never seen before? Because if that's the case, then what about the break-in the night before? What about the apartment's connection to drug activity? What about the dispute at the ranch? There are too many loose ends, too many possible motives, and not enough answers. Today, Rachel's family is still searching for justice. still hoping that someone will come forward with information that could finally explain what happened that night. Because somewhere out there, someone knows the truth. And until they speak up, Rachel Hansen's story remains unfinished. Make a video for this script.